Welcome to the Liberated Feminine Podcast. I'm Lucy Lampe, your host, and in today's episode, we have a very special guest, my man and father of my unborn child, Brenden Durell. He is a former professional athlete turned intimacy coach, known globally for his work on Netflix's Too Hot to Handle. But his real work goes much deeper. For over 15 years, he's been guiding people into honest, embodied connection with themselves, with others, and with the true intimacy of life. His journey has taken him across continents, from the Amazon to living in Africa, studying ancestral wisdom, plant medicine, and the power of presence. Through his retreats, writing, and mentorship, Brenden helps people strip away the masks and live with more courage, confidence, clarity, and love. Now, that's his formal introduction, y'all, but on a personal level, I have got to say what I didn't get to mention in our conversation with each other, which is that everything about our story has been wildly unorthodox. I mean, I've never, not even in movies, thought, oh, this is a plot that could happen. So many plot twists, which we will share. We will sprinkle them in throughout the series. But what I really want to emphasize is I am just in continuous awe of how much expansion I have personally witnessed one person have in this period of time, to go from the not just bachelor life, but the nomadic traveling around the world. And it's a whole different lifestyle. From that to feeling like, okay, I'm ready to do this thing with someone and explore what's on the other side of my nomadic journeys, to having a family, a whole family, not just a partner, but 4 kids, and then making another one. So this man has been through some intense expansions, and I have been through some really big deepenings of myself as well. So in this series, we will be addressing different questions that have been coming in from followers and listeners of this podcast. So it's going to be juicy. It's going to be juicy. There is so much to share that we just had to find a place to begin. So this is our starting point right here, starting with a question about how we met. Let's dive in. Welcome to the first of probably a few episodes where we're going to dive into these questions. And the first one is, how did you meet? First DMs, how you each felt, and when you knew it was the real deal. First of all, whoever you are, how did you know it was the DMs? How did you know? You start.
Yeah, well, you slid in my DMs.
You slid into mine first. Technically.
It's all been such like a blur. But I do remember like one of my earliest experiences of when I noticed Lucy. She had this viral reel with her ex-husband, and I remember they were just like groping each other. And I remember just looking at this video and being like, I would never have a partner. Who do I do this with? I would never be with somebody who's this open. I remember saying that. But even before I got to that conclusion, I did feel something. I was like, who is that? Like a deep curiosity of like who you were. I didn't know, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, it was more of like it felt like a seed was planted when I saw that. And also in all the ways too, because it wasn't just like curiosity in you. It triggered me because I was like, I would never do that. I would never, ever do that. So that was like probably the beginning of our work together.
Our souls were like, okay, it has begun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also the timing of that too. I remember you didn't see that until after I was already going through the divorce.
Yeah.
So it was interesting how all these little things lined up. Because I think you technically slid into my DMs just responding to a story about toxic feminine traits. That's where it officially began. And then sometime later, you were posting about the spring equinox. And I was like, yeah, that's the beginning of the real new year.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. It just took off from there.
It took off from there. And it literally, it felt like a hi, nice to see you again.
Yeah.
You know, like there was no like honestly, like we're still trying to figure this out actually. Like there's been no honeymoon phase.
Right.
It's been like 0 to 1,000, 0 to 1,000 with everything, with the family, with living in Ecuador. Even though we have our romance, but it felt like there was no honeymoon phase because it was just like, oh hey, like let's pick up where we left off. That's what it feels like.
Yeah, that's literally what it's felt like. Whatever we did in the past life or lives, we just kind of pick up. And there is a familiarity there too. I think when they ask, how did you know when it was the real deal and how you felt? It's like for me too, it felt like this resonance. I remember when I was going through my uncoupling and I would drop into these meditations. And even before that, actually, like a couple of years before that, I'd had my self-pleasure practice for quite some time now. And I remember I started working with intentionally this more grounded masculine energy and just to feel what it felt like in my body, not just in my pleasure areas, but like in my cells. And there was a resonance. And one day when I was going through that uncoupling part of the process, I was on the couch and all of a sudden it just like I felt it. It's like I felt you, but I didn't know who you were. And so when we did start connecting and talking, it was like there was that resonance. It wasn't your actual audible voice, but it was how it feels in my body. So when people are like, how do you know when it's I'm like, I don't know. This is part of how I knew, but I don't know that there was a point when she asked, when did you know when it was the real deal? It's like we remembered each other.
Yeah. For me, like there was several points where I felt oh, like it was always, this could be it. Not that this was it, because I was so afraid to commit. And, for me, I remember like when we truly started connecting, I had just like a list of questions, that it's like I hope our daughter's gonna like ask a potential partner. And I remember these questions were so important to me. It was about, are you willing to have more children? Like you're asking questions about your divorce. Like I was asking all the questions that, ultimately seeking safety to be able to be like, okay, let's go deeper. And what I really loved about that experience was that you never got flustered or, you never wavered. You didn't get annoyed that I was asking questions. You were really patient with me. That was like the first time I was like, oh, wait, like I'm being really intense and somebody's not closing off or shutting down or getting angry. And from that moment, I was like, I think I might be onto something with this Maria Lucia.
This might be something. Yeah, and that was a big thing too. It wasn't like, this is it. And also like for me, I wasn't looking for it, but I kept getting these pulls to something's coming. And I made the list, the famous list that everyone, when they're trying to manifest their partner, and I wasn't trying, that's why I resisted it. And one of the people that I work with, she was like, yeah, your guides really want you to make that list. And I was like, why? I'm going to be in my single girl era and just be like the mom and just be all about whatever I was doing in my life. And that list was less about the attributes and the things and more about how I wanted to feel around you, how I wanted the kids to feel, what I wanted you to appreciate about the kids. And so literally, okay, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry today. I might. That's okay. I'm very pregnant and hormonal too, so it doesn't help. The first time that you met the kids in person, when you brought them their little gifts. Oh no, it's coming. And it's like you really saw them, because we're a big package deal. And that was another big thing. Like, how do you know it was a real deal? Like, his heart was just expanded for all of us. And they trusted you and they felt safe with you from the beginning. And they respect you. And it was never like, oh, that's his mom's boyfriend. They're like, they remembered you too. And that was a huge thing.
Mm.
And that was also more confirmation. Like, we're all in this together, you know, everyone chose this crazy wild path. Last year was insane. But yeah, that's kind of how I knew it was the real deal eventually. It's not like one big thing. It's a series of little things.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Um, and it's really interesting because when I like a moment that I was like, this is a real thing as well, is because of how much just the thought of you and the family really triggered me, but not in a way that made me want to close off and run away and go keep nomading. Like I stayed. I was just like, no, like this is something that I feel is good for me. Like that's not my ego saying that. Like my actual spirit was like, no, this is good for me. You know, because even growing up in my Christian days back in Oklahoma, I remember one of my favorite pastors. He was a young pastor, and he married a woman that had, I believe, 3 or 4 kids already, and then he didn't have any kids, and so he married into a family that had kids. And I remember he was giving a sermon one day, and he was like, "Fellas, don't you ever rule out single moms." Like single moms, like they're some of the strongest women out there. And he kept going on and going on. I remember sitting there as like a 22-year-old, like, yeah, whatever, bro. Like keep talking your talk. You know, I'm gonna be out of the church soon. Like, I'm not gonna listen to you. And I remember that, but it always stuck with me because now they have a beautiful blended family of like 6, 7 kids, you know? Yeah. And it was always a thing for me. Like, if I am to have a child, it's going to be with somebody who never had a child before, because I want to experience it brand new with that person. And I was like, I'm never going to be with somebody who's going to be divorced. Like I had all these like egoic rules about how it's supposed to be, like how it's supposed to be. And so when you came in, I was just like, this is literally what I said no to, but I can't seem to get away, you know, like by my choosing. I was like, no, I love this, you know? So there was like a point in me where I was like, this is going to be healing, you know, deeper than who I am as Brenden Durell Davis, like deeper than like my identity, like my actual soul came here for this type of healing. And I got to a point too where I was like, if I were to have kids, I would love for my child to have built-in big brothers and sisters already, and the added benefit of somebody who's been a mother 4 times already. Yeah. So my soul started being like, sending this cooling to me, like, no, it's okay. You're in good hands. Because even though this whole experience now is new for you, because it's been almost a decade, it's like we're experiencing this together, you know, for the first time. And it's like knowing that she's going to have big brothers, big brother and big sisters, like for her. Because that's something that I always wanted when I was a kid. I wanted a really close family in that type of way. I wanted deeply supportive older brothers and sisters. It didn't work out that way for me, but now it's like I desire that. So even in this, like when I was questioning you in the beginning about like, well, are you open to have more kids, this and that, it was from a place of my inner child, like being like, is she safe to be able to start a family with or to add to the family? And that's what it came down to. So there was like a culmination of, you know, just different points of like, yes, because if I didn't have those points of like the yeses and like the when I knew, I don't think I would have been able to stand the test, all the tests that have been coming through.
Yeah, and there were lots of them. I think too, one thing that for me a big practice was being willing to let go. You know, at so many points throughout that, especially before moving, before getting my tubes reconnected. And there's no guarantee that it was going to work.
Yeah, I was actually so against that. Yeah, I was so against
it. No, I changed my mind.
Like, it was more, it was because like, she made a decision for herself. And for me, it was like with my experience in the past with women, I was like, I don't want anything that's going to be held against me, you know, like in a way of like, oh, like you made me get had this surgery. And I was like, no, like, I don't want that. I don't want that for you. You have your kids and it's like, you know, it's okay. But she went through with it, like a warrior. And I just remember during that whole time, I was like, this woman is not from Earth. Like, she's not from Earth. Like, who decides to get a reversal surgery after having 4 kids?
And it's been 9 years. Like,
and yeah, it was so that was also another point for me. I was like, we're talking about commitment. We're talking about somebody who's all in. I'm like, there's no more all in than that. You know, because why would you even want to entertain that idea?
Yeah, I'm not opening this portal. And I literally said that. And to this day, it's like I wouldn't open that portal for anybody else. And so that was a big letting go moment for me where I said, all right, well, if this doesn't work out and I'm fertile again, I'm screwed. Like, I'm going to have to figure something out. But it just felt good in my soul. And I felt the presence of spirit babies the first week that we were just talking, and it freaked me out because I was like, no, how? I mean, it's impossible. I didn't even know it was possible to reverse the surgery. And so I really thought that that part of my life was over.
Yeah.
And
do you remember that article that you said that it was a typo? It said you had 6 children.
Yes. Yeah. There was an article I was in some years back, and it said I had 6 kids, and I felt like I have 6 kids. So we have to have more after this, by the way. He's like, let me just integrate all of this first.
Yeah, gotta catch up.
Also, I need to catch up. I'm not a young spring chicken anymore. All right, so we spent our whole time on that question. It was worth it. Now you know a little bit more about us and our inception, our beginnings. And in our next time, we'll dive into some more questions around healing and the wounds that have come up for both of us, because oh boy, yeah, we got some stuff. We got some stuff to share about that. So thank you for joining us for this episode. And until next time, here's to liberating your wild feminine heart. I'm a little porn star, you bring the boom, I bring the bass, give me a taste, lay me to waste. I'm your little plaything. I got the feeling this original scene's gonna take me way deep. Are you afraid? Will you run away? Don't run away, run. 'Cause once